Come join Kyle, John, and David as they go through what's on the playlist. Find out what's everyone's favourite at Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment. We have a few segments, to be honest. In and out points, no celebs and the gossip. Back in time where we're talking about the big M's, coming attractions, what the cue. Quick checks, who'll be laughing? You abundantly. Welcome to Dual Redundancy.
Yes, welcome to Dual Redundancy, the only podcast we hear all latest in television, entertainment news with too many else with exactly the same opinions. I'm one of those hosts, David Allen, and another one is
John Burke, and the third one is
Kyle Bridger. I totally forgot about this. So, Jinx! John is X-Men. Dave, you're my baby reindeer. Boom, full circle.
Oh, wow. I don't know. I thought you were going to do like a Jinx. Like, I'm not going to talk, buy me a Coke. That way you can get out of having to do the intro there. But yeah, we're going to be talking about all of those shows. We got some movies. We got a lot to do. We're going to catch up on everything we kind of missed on the podcast when we were talking about other stuff this spring. So we're going to catch up on all those shows and movies. We got some in and out points. We have an update to our box office draft. So much to do tonight. We got to jump right into it. Oh my God, John, I just said it and now I'm blanking. What is it?
In and Out Points. Like
some short-term memory. I literally said it and then 3 seconds later I forgot it. And what am I doing here? Yes, it is In and Out Points. We're going to start off with one that John sent me this week. Warner Brothers has announced that a new Lord of the Rings movie is coming to theaters in 2026. This one will be titled Lord of the Rings: The Hunt for Gollum, and will not only see the return of Andy Serkis in the titular role, but he will also direct the film. Also, unlike the Amazon series, this movie will see the return of executive producer Peter Jackson. So we get the band back together. We're going to have The Hunt for Gollum. What are your thoughts? Kyle, start me off. I know you're a big Lord of the Rings guy. Are you excited for this film?
Well, I don't know if excited is the word. Maybe tepid excitement. I don't know. I feel like I trust Peter Jackson whenever he's working on a project because I think he's so thorough with what he does, and I think he cares for the IP. So I think he would want to do something good. But we've seen a lot of bad with the Hobbit movies, and even with the Amazon series that I'm just very hesitant to, and I definitely want to take a wait and see approach, but I'm down for anything that's cool, but I am definitely nervous based on, everything after the main trilogy there.
Yeah, and I'm also confused. I mean, I'm not a Lord of the Rings expert here, but I don't believe Gollum is around at the end of the third movie. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be some kind of prequel? Like, where does this take place? Is this based
Alternate
on any
universe?
Is this
Lord
based on any Tolkien material? Is this new stuff? Is that good? Is that bad? I mean, it feels like we have a very limited stuff of work that he did, and I know it's a vast, very cinematic, huge universe. But I feel like, okay, we got this, and now we're trying to expand it like so much, and it's like, do we have enough material? Because it's like the Hollywood Reporter mentions that Amazon will have its own TV universe. That's its own thing. Now we'll have this thing over here at Warner Brothers doing their own thing. So it's like we have now two conflicting, it's like two MCUs, one from Disney and one from, I don't know, Netflix. But then again, we had that before with those Daredevil and those shows. So it worked for a little bit and then it didn't. And John, what are your thoughts on this? Are you excited? Are you, I don't know.
Well, I think I'm in the same boat. We'll see. But I will say, I'm pretty sure Tolkien wrote a massive amount of supplementary material. So I'm sure they're probably pulling from that. So yeah, you talk about how we have like this finite amount of material. That's kind of only the mainline books that are popularized. But there's a ton of other stuff that he wrote that I think in conjunction with his son was published and could possibly lead to this. So this could fill in some of the gap between the original trilogy and the Hobbit trilogy, that big gap of time in between, it could fill in a lot of that. So I don't have a problem with that, assuming they're sticking to the source material. But I don't know. Is like, is Andy Serkis like not making money from like the Planet of the Apes films? Is he like, oh, dude, I need to figure out what's next. I need that paycheck. I'm like, why now and why this? You know, that's my real question. I'm sure, like you said, that the care is going to be put into it, but that doesn't always mean it's going to be a smash hit, you know?
Yeah, he wants that directing money. I'll have to look up. I believe there's one film, but I don't want to say it on the podcast in case I'm way off for his directing credit that doesn't maybe put the most confidence in me for this film. Let me double check here. I'm on IMDb pulling it up as we speak. He has 5 directing credits to his name, one which was a video game, one might be a TV movie, but his most recent film was 2021's Venom, Let There Be Carnage. So Venom 2 was his last film here, and so yeah, take that with what you will. Speaking of, like, we kind of mentioned these dueling universes of Amazon and Warner Brothers doubling up on all their material. This is not the first The Hunt for Gollum film. There's a 2009 fan-made film directed by Chris Bouchard. It's only 39 minutes long. It's on YouTube, but it's received plenty of praise. Has over 13 million views. Until Warner Brothers maybe was a little scared of this competing Hunt for Gollum film. And following the announcement of their film, this YouTube film was taken offline for many hours, with YouTube putting up a notice that Warner Brothers had filed a copyright claim against the movie. So this guy did it, 2009, fan-made film, and then Warner Brothers is like, hey, that's a good idea. We own this, right?
That's kind of sad.
It kind of stinks. And if I remember from our media and law class or whatever, it's like, isn't the whole thing with copyright law is like you're supposed to protect it? So if you go several years without protecting it and then all of a sudden want it back, it just seems like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. I mean, it was all made for fun, and the Lord of the Rings fans reacted poorly to this, having this film taken down. Later, the film was restored. Studio source says that the takedown request was done in error. Sure, Jan. Okay, sure.
Yeah, I know.
What's the timing? Is it manually? Yeah, it's like wild. But it's back online. You can watch this fan-made film until 2026 is the real film, theatrical film, directed by Andy Serkis. But all right, well, IP never dies, and that goes into our next in and out point. We've been hearing rumblings and leaks for a while, but it's finally official. The Office is coming back. Peacock announced last week that a formal series order was given to the untitled series co-created by The Office's Greg Daniels and Nathan For You co-creator Michael Corman. The series will star Domhnall Gleeson and Sabrina Impacciatore from The White Lotus there. This new series will be set in the universe of Dunder Mifflin and introduce a new cast of characters. Quote, the documentary crew that immortalized Dunder Mifflin's Scranton branch is in search of a new subject when they discover a dying historic Midwestern newspaper and the publisher trying to revive it with volunteer reporters. All right, so we're going from kind of one paper to another, the newspaper. John, are you excited for this Office follow-up?
Do these reboot things ever work? I mean, can you name one thing that it's just like, oh yeah, they rebooted that and it's much better. Like it was worth it. You know what I mean? Like maybe once in a blue moon you'd be like, oh right, but it's not something that's like memorable. Like this never works. This never works. You're just trying to milk this cow even more. I mean, you got it behind how many paywalls on Peacock, and now you want to, have people pay more to watch this. Like, I don't know, man.
I think it's all to do with just getting a following. I mean, the more fractured media becomes, it's like, well, we need something that's going to get the juices flowing and get some kind of viewership back because they're hoping they can get all the people that watched The Office before to return. But again, yeah, I think people know that these things stink and eventually it's going to come back to haunt them. And then I feel like it hurts the original series in a way too, because it waters that down. And it's like, oh, well, remember they made that follow-up that kind of stunk? It's like, can't we just like immortalize the one thing? I don't know.
Yeah, it's no creativity, but they're all just using IP or familiar stuff to get people back in. I mean, I really like the Mr. and Mrs. Smith series on Amazon, but like I watched the movie recently. It was different from the movie, but like they were using it just the title to get people into it. Like I would have watched Donald Glover, Maya Erskine spy show just on that, but no, you got to sell it with something from the past and with the title, and it's the IP and the name. And I'm just so confused by this project, but then I'm kind of glad with this announcement because I didn't want another Dunder Mifflin paper branch. I thought like the Office new one is going to be okay. It's the Utica branch. It's like, no, like do something different. And at least we're sort of different. It's still set in the same universe, whatever that means. We're in that universe. It's a real universe. Like, so it just probably means, there can be crossovers.
They buy their paper from Dunder Mifflin.
Exactly. And it's just like, I don't want that. Like, I don't need the crossover. People, let these things be in their own world. Just do another mockumentary at a newspaper thing. Like, that's it. Like, it reminds me of like with Parks and Rec. Like, Parks and Rec was initially an Office spinoff, and it became its own thing. That's great. Let it be its own thing. It's a mockumentary at, a small town government building. That's fine. Like, just do a newspaper one, but like to make it like The Office newspaper, like or whatever it's going to be called. It's it's just, I don't know. I'm also just very confused of like, even like with the cast, like she was great in The White Lotus, but how's like Sabrina like going to fit in a Midwestern newspaper company?
Yeah,
when she's clearly from Italy. Like I don't know. I am overall like the casting like of Fame level, because I think what makes The Office so special was like the first group. Like, sure, Steve Carell was just, kind of starting to break out a little bit, but they were all pretty much no-name people. Mm-hmm. And I think that works. That makes it real. It feels believable that they're all in Scranton, PA. But then when the season went on and we're bringing in like Will Ferrell and James Spader and like the guest stars of Jim Carrey, and it's just like, okay, it's too much. Like, now it's come unbelievable. And I really hope they keep the casting more real. And I think it would help the show overall. But
yeah,
we'll see.
Because Domhnall Gleeson's been in a bunch of decent movies.
He's definitely of the two. Yeah, like the bigger star. But I still don't know if like he's like, for the majority of the public, like a household name kind of thing. Like, oh yeah, that guy. But we're talking a little bit about Peacock. And we're going to talk about how NBCU is gearing up for their big Summer Olympic Games in Paris. This year, all events will be streamed in real time via Peacock. In the past, they aired like taped highlights of the most popular events in primetime NBC, but they're going to need some stuff to change it up if everything's going to be live in the moment on Peacock. And we got some of those stories we can talk about a little bit here. Right, the newspaper, the online newspaper Variety, notes it could be more of a variety show type feel, this coverage on primetime NBC. They got Snoop Dogg doing some man on the street observations during primetime coverage. We got Peyton Manning and Kelly Clarkson. They're going to be co-hosts during the opening ceremony. Jimmy Fallon will be there for the closing ceremony. And on Peacock, to get that younger demo, NBCU has grabbed Alex Cooper from the podcast Call Her Daddy to offer her thoughts on the buzz surrounding the games and host a series of interactive Olympic watch parties. All right, Kyle, you are our resident sports expert. Are you excited for Peacock's coverage of the Paris Olympic Games?
I mean, I guess I've never been like a huge, like I enjoy the Olympics, but I'd rather just watch the sports. And I don't think that's NBC's model. And in fact, I think a lot of the viewership for the Olympics is female and like higher in the demo for females. And they are looking, I think, more for like those stories and those behind the scenes things. And that's like kind of not what I enjoy about it. So I think that's what they're going for. I think that's what they're looking to do with this type of thing. The thing that I'm concerned about is I think Peacock's streaming site stinks. I think for the sports, I've already complained about the Premier League not being able to watch replays instantly, not being able to watch live stuff and then rewind because I don't know, they want to make you watch the ads during the halftime. It is so frustrating, and if that doesn't change, I mean, that alone is going to bring it bad press, because I think these are common concerns among like the wrestling community and stuff like that. As far as the people, like I know Snoop Dogg had like viral clips from the last Olympics with the horses, and him and Kevin Hart were talking about it. I think they're just hoping that the personalities will add to the events. Because for Americans, it's like, here, watch this sport you have no idea about. For a lot of people, it's like a turnoff, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, they need those human interest stories. Like that's a great way that you said it, like with that demo, because it's like they're playing to the people that watch The Voice or American Idol, all those like reality shows where it's like, this is my life story. I need this because of this. And then it's like you see them triumph or you see them unfortunately fail, and you get that like reality show type feel. And a lot of people probably going to tune in live on Peacock at whatever time, 12 p.m. to watch the 8 p.m. thing in Paris. It's like, I just want to watch. I want to just see the sport. I just want to see the athletes compete.
Yeah.
Like that's what I want. And they have one more thing that they're going to be doing as well. The network also plans to deploy 5 heart rate monitors among the parents of the athletes. The results will then be shown on screen as they watch their kids compete. So we get to see their heart rates go up of these parents as they watch their. Like, what are we doing? Like this is becoming like
it's a
ridiculous.
Game
show.
Yeah, it's so stupid because it always sounds good in theory, but again, these people are competing at the highest level. Like they've been training for 4 years at the highest level. And I'm sure their parents and stuff have been involved in something like that. What if one of them goes down with like a broken leg? Yeah, let's check in on the heart rate monitor, the broken leg. It's just like, this is.
I think we're gonna like probably like see it on the screen, like it's almost like how we're on Audacity right now with the bar of our speech of like it's rising, it's rising.
Oh,
they're at 120, they're at 125. You know, it's just it's
silly. It's so. I don't know. I just think it's silly.
Yeah. They gotta compete. They gotta do whatever they can to get people to subscribe to Peacock. Because
I just want to say one more thing. The last Olympics, I think they were using Peacock for the last Olympics too. They have to make it much, much easier to navigate the site too, because it was so hard figuring out what was like a show, what was a live event, what was just this after stuff.
I remember there was like clip packages. It's like, no, I want to watch the full thing. Don't give me the clip down version. Like it was very, I remember. Yeah.
It's annoying. They got to figure that out and make it more clear.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they got to hopefully, you know, they got a lot riding on this. And because they're being left out on some other things here. They're being left out of some bundling that's going on with streaming services. It was announced last week that Disney and Warner Brothers Discovery are going to launch a Disney Plus, Hulu, and Max streaming bundle. Now, the companies announced this bundle of these 3 services that's going to be available in the summer, supposedly. There's no pricing info or specific launch date yet, but Disney and Warner Brothers said that the bundle will be available for purchase on any of the 3 streaming platforms' websites and offered as like they're going to offer both an ad-supported and an ad-free plan for these 3. So you can get all 3 of these combined for one price. You're taking these channels and you're putting them together for one price. Why has nobody ever thought of this ever in the history of television? This is a crazy concept. What if you did like 4 services? 5, 6, 100.
Just keep
100
it going.
services. Just put it together and make one price. I think there might be something here. I don't know what a name for it would be, but it'd be something.
But Dave, we've cut the cable.
Oh yeah, we cut the cord. Yeah. So what is this?
We've replaced it with a different cord. Now it's the Ethernet cord.
Exactly. It's the Ethernet. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Ethernet.
You know, we're saving money on cable. but now our internet prices are going. Like it's just it all has to fluctuate once we cancel from Time Warner and all the other different companies.
Listen, it's over. Cheap the days of cheap bundles or cheap media outlets, all that it's done. It's gone.
Yeah.
And we're going right back to where we were. And more so, this seems more just like a merger waiting to happen, and where you have like two or one media company. I mean, we're talking about Warner Brothers and Disney, and Hulu is basically Disney adjacent. So
well, yeah, Disney. I mean, they own, or they're going to own the full version of Hulu once they figure out the third that Comcast NBCUniversal has. So it's to me, it's just so silly. But it's long past. We're before long, the prices of this stuff is going to go way up, and then you're going to have the cost of the internet up, and we're going to be paying even more than when cable was around. So I don't know.
There's no Discovery bundled in with this, interestingly.
Good point. Not yet. But remember, John, when we talked about that, with the whole thing with the name and the price of one, Max price went up because we got Discovery added, but Discovery likes to be separate. Like those users like to only spend, $6 and only have their programming. They don't want other programming mixed with ours. But
just to go off that, David Zaslav said, we don't need the NBA, right? Talking about TNT and it's like without the NBA live, that they get a ton of action from the NBA, and now sports. You're gonna tank.
Sports is everything right now with streaming or live events, even because it goes with everything going on with Netflix. Netflix isn't a part of this deal, but like between the roast that they just had with Tom Brady, that was huge. That was live for a reason. The Everybody's in LA, which if you haven't seen it yet with John Mulaney, it actually is really funny, even on a replay, but those were 6 nights of live events. And there's rumors of a possible, page out of Peacock's playbook here of Christmas Day games on Netflix live. So that's where the stuff is. That is where live programming sports, that's where the money is in these streaming services. We see it. I mean, we talked about earlier this year with Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN Plus, working with Warner Brothers and the Fox Corporation for that sports bundle that's supposedly coming out in the fall. All those forces possibly working together. But this one's a very interesting bundle of things because, as you were kind of saying, it's almost leading to a merger. It's leaning towards that acquisition type thing. And what I've heard, I think it was in a CNBC article, that Disney is actually kind of in the driver's seat of this deal, and that Disney will essentially act as the distributor, collecting the subscription fees from subscribers and then paying Warner Brothers Discovery a percentage. So in other words, it's like Disney has the upper hand and Warner Brothers just wants, I'll take we want more subscribers. We want the eyeballs. We'll take the change, whatever's like left kind of thing to help booster them. It's Disney and Hulu are the driver of this deal. And it's all these prices have just been inching every quarter, every year. It's just like, here's another dollar, another dollar, another dollar, and it's just like, when does this stop? And there's gonna have to be a breaking point at some point, because already people are like, I'm not doing all these different services unless they're bundled, unless it's cheaper, unless it's some kind of thing like that's it. So
I think on the other side of that too, along with them raising their prices for stuff like this, I think they're paying less in residuals. So I think they're really trying to probably push for these kind of things, get people in when it's a little bit cheaper and then raise the price slowly over time, like we've seen YouTube TV doing, in order to, kind of cut some of their costs potentially. So, it kind of stinks on multiple levels here,
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, with all that being said, if the price is right for this one, I wouldn't mind it. I mean, of the services, it's like, I feel like, unfortunately, as much as I don't love everything on Netflix, almost Netflix is like the Kleenex. It's like it's just synonymous. You need that, it's like, it's just something that you need to have. And it's like, okay, Max has some of the best programming, and I like Hulu. It's like, all right, like those are my three.
Yeah.
I feel like Amazon's different because it's like that's like included in my 2-day shipping of it all, Amazon membership. But outside of that, I don't have Peacock. I don't have Apple TV Plus. I'll get them when something is important, but like they're not need to haves for me every month. So if it's just me like alone right there, that's like 3. And I think that's like a lot of people. It's like I can do 3, but because that's already at least $30, $40, $50 a month.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot.
But, all right. Well, that's it for Now Points. We have some quick checks to talk about from all these different services and more. Play the jingle. Quick check. Talked a little bit about Netflix here. John, you got one on Netflix. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to start it off with a Baby Reindeer, which is one that Dave asked me to check out. Not something I would probably normally check out on my own, but very interesting. I know some of you guys saw some, so I think, Dave, you said you watched, what, 1 or 2?
I think 3.5.
Okay,
yeah.
And Kyle, you saw about the same?
I saw 2 episodes, yeah.
I ended up seeing it all.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not going to say that as an advocacy of you should go watch it all, but I will say that the way the story is told is very interesting, and I don't want to spoil too much for you, but there's an episode, I think it was like episode 4 or 5. Where
I think I'm in it right now, and I haven't finished it yet, but it feels like something's coming.
Yeah, they don't talk about her at all, almost the whole episode, and it's very, very interesting, and it the story kind of gets blown open in a way. And it changes the feel of it in a certain way, and it was interesting to see that unfold. After seeing it all, like I said, I'm not going to say, yeah, this is great, go watch it. I'm not going to say, oh, I didn't like it, don't watch it. I'm somewhere in the middle, but it's definitely was very interesting and very, very, I don't want to say weird, but intriguing maybe is the word I'm looking for. I will say, after watching the first episode, I was kind of like, on it. I think having watched the trailer is just like the first episode kind of condensed. I mean, like everything that's in the trailer pretty much is basically in the first episode. And I kind of finished the episode and I was like, why did I watch that if I saw the trailer? But after watching a few more, like I said, things start going very, very, not sideways, but in a weird direction. So if you're looking for, I wouldn't say it's psychological horror, but maybe a little bit of weirdness. I could recommend it on that note.
Yeah, so this show came out on Netflix on April 11th, and I think it's been picking up steam on it. And I think it was in the top 10, maybe number 1 for a couple of weeks. So that kind of caught my attention. Like, what is this show? Set it up real quick. The story follows a writer and performer, Richard Gads, and his kind of warped relationship with a female stalker, and how the impact it has on him, and how maybe he's ultimately forced to face like a deep trauma in his past. What's interesting about it, which I've learned, that it's autobiographical. So it's Richard Gadd, who's the writer and star of this, seemingly went through this or some version of this. I guess it's been workshopped in like a one-man show he was doing, which kind of reminds me a little bit of like the feel of like a Fleabag, even though it's like completely different. Like, Fleabag's like this kind of rom-com type thing versus this is definitely more thriller. But they were both workshopped in that similar way before it became this kind of star vehicle. For me, it reminded me a bit of like the Night Of pilot, where we're seeing the issues and mistakes in the things that he's doing. Again, only in these first 3 episodes I can really speak to, that he's making, and how maybe later they will come back to hurt him. And it's just like, and you're yelling at the screen, like you're infuriated with his choices, but also you feel bad for him because you get it. Like he's trying to be a nice guy. So it's like, you're like, no, or what are you doing? Don't do that. Like there's a bit of anxiety with this. It's not an easy watch.
That's right on the money, and I think that parallels what he's feeling about her and how he's feeling sorry for her and all that stuff. So yes, that is very much exactly what's happening. So,
Kyle, what do you think so far?
I'm gonna be honest. I'm having a hard time watching it, not because it's not interesting. It is interesting, but I just get so angry with his decisions, even despite being on his side. Like I feel for the guy, but then it's like the decisions you're making are so stupid, and like clearly this woman is deranged. Why do you keep doing this to yourself? And I'm sure we'll get to that later, but all the cringe moments before it, and then to have a tarot, like it's like cringe moment for 15 minutes, and he's trying to get out of it, and then he makes a decision that deepens this connection with it, and you're like, well, why am I gonna watch this if this guy's gonna keep doing the stupid thing that's putting him in the situation? It just was getting to be frustrating, and it's a short series, so I might keep with it, but it's definitely it's anxiety inducing for sure.
Get through the 4th episode is all I'm going to say about that.
I got to finish that one tonight. I'm halfway through it.
Yeah, that changes a lot of what's happening, like perspective wise. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. If you're feeling that, at least watch the 4th episode.
Okay,
cool. All right, so we're going from, I guess, true crime type thing to another, and that's going to be my quick check. I'm talking about the Jinx Part II. It dropped on April 21st, or at least the start of it. There's been 4 of 6 episodes so far. It's 9 years after the smash true crime miniseries that was on HBO, and this one continues to focus on Robert Durst and his arrest and the trial for Susan Berman's murder. Now, there's pros and cons of this follow-up. I mean, Durst was heavily involved and interviewed for Part 1, but obviously for Part 2, not really available. He's behind bars, not around anymore. So it's kind of like, what do we have here? Because it was just a wild the amount of information he was giving in the first one. But there's still plenty of stuff going on here. There's plenty of video calls from prison, phone recordings. There's so much going on that we're learning so much behind the scenes of all this trial. There's I guess the other con would be it's a little bit of like the Making of Murderer 2, where it's like the case is so big at this point that we saw all the updates in real time. When you saw the first one, you didn't really know it maybe as much. So everything was a surprise. But now it's like, yeah, I knew he was arrested. I knew he's not around anymore. Like, there's so many things because I lived through it because of the popularity of the show. But at the end of the day, it's still like top-notch filmmaking. I think it's one of the best like produced and directed true crime series out there. It's just like there's just the recreation reenactments that they do, mixing in the real footage of stuff. It's just really well done, and there's still wild details that come out. Like, he was caught in New Orleans, and he had like this mask he was going to ride into Cuba wearing, and we see the recreation of it, and it's like wild. It looks like something out of a movie. Oh my God. And it's just so meta because like the Jinx doc is so heavily intertwined in this trial that there's a scene where Kathleen's family and other people involved are watching the finale from season 1 in a season 2 episode, because it's important, because it all ties together. And it's like, and you got Robert Durst even saying, like, making up an excuse that he was on meth in the finale, and that's why he said those things. You meet Robert Durst's like friends and allies, one of which was a country porn singer.
Sweet. Whose
hits include, I gotta censor it a little bit here, "Sea Stains on the Pillow," parentheses, "where your sweet head used to be." That's just one of his many songs, and we got to hear those as he's an important part of this trial. Like,
oh my God.
So there's still some wild stuff. So, obviously it's not going to hit the craziness and the highs of season 1, but it's still very interesting. It's still well done. So I would recommend it, especially if you enjoyed the part 1 of the Jinx. Yeah. Did you guys ever? I mean, I'm sure we've talked about it on the podcast. Did you ever?
Yeah.
Get in?
I never tuned in because I felt like I was getting the updates in real time, or like you would tell me about it. So I never went back and watched it. Yeah.
I just remember I wasn't watching live to begin with, but then the night of the finale, I remember just like being in my apartment and like whatever the news. It's like, tonight at 11. Robert Durst has been arrested in this and that, and like ahead of the finale, I'm like, whoa, like what happened here? And then so I caught up as quick as I could to like kind of be involved, obviously with the finale and the moment and stuff like that. But
yeah.
All right, so Kyle, you technically have 2. We're gonna do a bit of a snake draft with these quick checks here. Let's start off with an animated one of yours.
Yeah, so I will say this is kind of outside what I guess I would normally watch. So I'm doing X-Men 97. I have a little bit of a background with this. I believe I saw a few episodes when I was younger, maybe in like Saturday morning cartoons or something, but I don't remember it that well. But I heard a lot of people talking about it, so I'm like, hey, let me check it out. The animation is so cool, and I don't know if it's just because I'm nostalgic for like that 90s animation style that they had, but it's really, really good. The storylines are really well done, and I will say this is not. I don't think this is a kid's show. Like I don't think. I think the storylines are very adult themed and have adult situations involved. So I think it is meant for an older audience that kind of grew up with this, and it's cool to see the X-Men characters be good again because I felt like the movies were just some of the later X-Men movies were so bad that it's cool to see them in this animated world again, doing cool stuff. I gotta be honest, I don't really know too much about the storyline. Magneto's back, but he's good, and they're kind of fighting this outside force that's trying to get rid of the mutants and kind of put some new I guess humans on the planet that are better than the mutants. It's a very weird thing. The storyline to me isn't the show with this. It's like the animation style, the nostalgia, and there are moments where these characters go through some like painful things, and it's just very well done for an animated show. And they could have just sat back and been like, here, look at this nostalgic thing from your 90s. But I think that's really, really well done throughout that. It's worth checking out, whether you're a superhero fan or not. I think it's very well done.
Interesting.
So is this a reboot of the animated series, or?
Yeah,
okay.
I believe so. Yeah, it's a totally new thing.
Does it still have the crazy intro music?
Yeah, they have the cool intro, and the credits is like them rolling the credits, but then it's like Cyclops, and then shows like his abilities are cool with it. It's nice. It goes all the way back to it, so it's very well done. Yeah.
Watch, this is the thing that gets Kyle back into the MCU. This will be it. He's gonna come back next week. All right, I just watched 40 films. I can tell you everything. But
I gotta be. I'm really kind of lost in situations with the storylines. But I think I know enough about the characters to be like, oh, that was really cool, or like, oh, I forgot about that character, like Gambit and all those, So
yeah,
it's cool.
I mean, it does look like they. I mean, I don't know much about the original series or this series, but you look at the animation, and like it almost looks too good. It almost looks too like the 97 version, at least from the stills and stuff, where it's like it's hard to tell the difference of like. Am I watching the new stuff or the old stuff? And so I guess it's wrapping up this week. This is where it gets me, though. It's like, again, with the MCU, not knowing what's going on, but it's part 3 of a 3-part finale. It's like, get out of here. Just make it one episode. It's like a 3-part finale.
Yeah, there are a few. They had one weird choice where they had part 1 of an episode was like episode 4, and then part 2 was episode 6. So they had like a bottle episode in between or something? Yeah.
Interesting.
Kind of strange, but cool nonetheless.
All right. Well, you got another one, Kyle. This one is still number 3 at the box office, despite coming out to PVOD this week. I don't know why we're rushing to get it on PVOD when it's still making millions of dollars in the theater. It's Challengers.
Yeah, man. This one... this movie I liked a lot, and what I will say is I think it was marketed as like, yo, watch like Zendaya hook up with these 2 dudes and they're having a threesome, and like that, like that's the vibe it got, right? Like that's what they were pushing.
When I was trying to find images for this podcast, any kind of still, it was like I literally typed in Challengers. That's the only thing I could find was that still from the trailer. It's just like, so I guess we gotta start with that, Kyle. Did it?
Well, it's just like that is one small piece
of course.
of like this bigger puzzle, and that scene pays off, but not in the like the sexually fantasizing way. It's more like look at how she's maneuvering amongst these two.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
So it's also like we get this story of Zendaya's Tashi Duncan. She's got these two boys that really want her. They are tennis players, and we followed their kind of life story over 13 years, and we get little glimpses here and there throughout, their lifetimes, and we see what happens to each of their relationships, and just the subtleties in the movie. It's like a thriller. It's the edge of your seat kind of thing. You're like, what's going on here? And I mean, everyone is gorgeous, good looking. And I mean, the pumping music from Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross is really, pushes the pace along with the tempo of the tennis. And then, their relationship intermingled with that. It's like everything is firing kind of like on all cylinders. And then there's a payoff at the end that is really, really good. So I was in it from the start. I really, really enjoyed this movie. I think it's much more than, like they're having a threesome or whatever. It is more about that. It's more than that, excuse me. And it's just very, very well done.
Yeah. No, I've heard really good things. Yeah, as you mentioned, like with the score, heard about the acting. Even before this movie came out, they were like, Zendaya, Oscar nominated. Like, she's going to get... Did you see that? Because I also hear more things about the male stars.
I really liked Josh O'Connor. I thought he was really good in it. Zendaya is always great. But I think there was... I think with Zendaya, they kind of like... because it's over a 13-year stretch, I think they tried to like, Zendaya is playing a teen, but they're also trying to get her to play a mom character at one point. And I'm like, she's not
it's
there
like the
yet.
Jennifer Lawrence thing with American Hustle, when she was somehow like, or even like Silver Linings Playbook, like all these like widows or like a mother. It's just like, she's like 21, like, or 19, or I don't even know what age she was when she made those films, but it just didn't work. Like,
so I think that's the toughest part of this movie. But I thought Josh O'Connor, I think that's his name, but I think he was very, very good in it. The other guy's great too, but I think Josh O'Connor was very, very good.
So we'll have to wait and see if it comes back around Oscar season for any of these actors or the film. But no, it's definitely on my list to check it out at some point.
It's crazy that it's already going to on demand.
It's too quick, and they're shooting themselves in the foot. All these studios and films, it's like they did this with Dune Part 2. It's still in theaters. It's doing well, and then they have to release it on PVOD, and it's just like let spread this thing out. Like let people see it and pay for it if they really want to see it in a theater. But oh well. I'm gonna do a quick check now. It's a snake draft. We're going back up the list. I'm going to talk about The Circle. And we had the season 6 finale just this past Wednesday. And I know I've talked about past seasons, but just to set things up here, this is a reality competition series where players compete without ever actually meeting in person. They communicate through a simulated social media interface, portraying themselves in any way they choose. So there's like a profile picture. They send messages out. They don't know. I mean, sometimes people are real. Sometimes people are pretending to be friends and family members that they have. Any persona that they want to be. This season, which made it a little interesting, is you can see one player there is not a person, but it looks like a hard drive, and that is an AI bot, I guess. So there was an AI player in The Circle named Max. And eventually they told... I guess like a week in, or not a week in, the first episode in, they told the players that one was AI, and they didn't guess correctly who it was, snooping it out. They actually eliminated a real person, but then they spilled the beans. It's like, okay, this is actually the AI, because I really think the AI was actually doing well in this game. And like, because a lot of times the way a lot of these players talk, it's very formulaic. Usually it's like, hey guys, weren't you worried about tonight's blocking? It could be any of us. Like, it almost sounds AI sometimes with how they talk to each other, and they didn't sniff it out. And I think they worry that like when players are voted well, they become influencers where they can choose to block somebody, and then they're like, well, if this Max becomes an influencer, it could seem like production is choosing who to win and lose, and it could be a little sticky. So I think we just gotta eliminate Max. We gotta do this. What's funny is though, Max was technically a real person. So like the profile, the pictures that were used, this guy turned up on TikTok, and he's just, and it's like, this is me, and it's because supposedly, again, I'm piecing it together because it was kind of vague on TikTok. I probably wasn't saying everything, but I think he applied for the show, and in the contract, it says your, name, likeness, image, or whatever could be used. I don't know if they let him know before he found out, watching The Circle, hey, that's me. Like, but it's like that when we talked about that Black Mirror episode, Joan is Awful. People were sending in their photos to be on a fake billboard. Well, you gave your likeness to Netflix. Yeah. Like, here you go.
Oh my gosh.
But no, but I will say, as much as I was joking about the interactions being very AI, this season was a little different, especially as it went on. There were such more real interactions with players. In the past, they, were very fake and generic, but this season we really got some like blunt, like they went for it. There was drama. They were blowing up games. People were jumping in, making alliances. There was some lines where it's like instantly, like you think they're gonna play cool, and they're just like bomb. And it was just like crazy drama. There was a couple really good villains that you love to hate, a good top 3 with a solid winner. So while seasons can kind of feel all blending together, I think this season was really a standout season for The Circle, and they always have little twists and turns of how they change up the game a little bit. But between the AI chatbot, between this ride or die twist, there was a lot of cool stuff in this season of The Circle. So yeah. All right, John, finish us off. What do we got?
Yeah, I got Fallout, the Fallout TV show. Watched all the episodes, of course. And,
so I guess we'll say it real quick. Sorry to interrupt. We talked about the premiere in 443. I haven't kept up with it, but feel free. You can, talk about the season as a whole, John. Spoil what you need to do, but that's your spoiler warning for the people out there.
Yeah, I've seen it all too.
Okay, good. So I'm not going to be ruining too much for anybody.
No.
All right. So yeah, I mean, this is an all original thing. This isn't following any of the games, although it ties in very heavily with the games. So we kind of see, these 3 characters almost come to a head at the end where they're all in the same space at the same time. They find her dad. They find the woman who stole him. And, they kind of set themselves up for next episode or next season. I'm not gonna spoil too much, but they set themselves up for another season. And overall, I enjoyed it. I know that there were some people who are, I think there's some people who are diehard Fallout fans who are noticing some inconsistencies and being like, oh, that kind of stinks. It's inconsistent. And then I think there's people who are just like trying to find issues and complaining. There's been a lot of talk online about how people are saying, oh, this invalidates certain games, and how, Todd Howard, who is the one at Bethesda who, is leading all this, how he hates Fallout New Vegas and he's getting stuff wrong on purpose and all that. And I think so much so that Bethesda or Todd said something and said like, hey, this is canon, blah, blah, blah. We don't hate it. I know one of the original guys who worked on Fallout 1 and 2 really voiced his opinion and did not like it. So there's been a little bit of drama about Fallout and what's been going on in the world, but I enjoyed it. I think that anybody who's getting upset about it is really either nitpicking or just looking for issues to complain. So if you're remotely interested in something like this, I would definitely recommend it. I don't know, Kyle, if you have anything you want to add to that. I kind of given more of a brief review than a synopsis, but
yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked it. I breezed right through it. I thought a lot of the characters were interesting. I thought the world was interesting. I definitely liked even which I thought was the kind of more boring part of the vault dwellers got to be ramp up more toward the end, and really finding out what was happening behind closed doors. And I just think Walton Goggins is a very good actor. He's so good in it. And I think he plays that character phenomenally. So a lot of flashbacks going back in time, seeing how this world ended up being where it was. It was I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I like the fact that they kind of are exploring a couple extra vaults. I mean, obviously we have the one that Lucy and Maximus kind of end up in and find some of their secrets, but even her brother ended up in some of the other vaults that are connected to Vault, was it 34 or whichever one they're in, and seeing some of the secrets and how that's tying into Vault Tech and maybe what hand they may have played in the actual bombs dropping in the future, or the past, excuse me. That is a bunch of kind of lore that we never really had in Fallout. So they're kind of exploring a little bit of stuff the games don't cover, you know? There's no real indication in the game as to who did that. It was always assumed that it was the communists, being in a war with them in Alaska, and everyone assumed that they dropped it. But, the show kind of hints that maybe it wasn't quite them. Maybe it was, some other group. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Maybe you can answer this question for me, because I was a little bit confused, and maybe it was the answer was in there and I missed it. But Lucy's father, they have this timeline on the board of this has happened over several years. And I know how Walton Goggins' character has kind of survived using that, ether or whatever he takes. But how does somebody like Lucy's dad stay alive in the condition that he's in?
So they were in that stasis in that other vault.
That's right.
So he's one of the people from pre-war, basically. And so him, along with that woman that got elected, the new overseer with one eye, and a couple other people who are in there. So they were all, and then the guy who's organizing it ended up being that robot in the other thing. So his brain was preserved as a robo brain from Fallout. So very, like I said, very interesting that they're starting to delve into other, kind of the more messed up side of some of the projects that Vault-Tec was doing, and they kind of opened it up to. We had that scene where they were in that kind of dark room talking to other people, and those are all Vault-Tec's competitors that they kind of invited in to have vaults to run experiments, which was very interesting, and kind of, again, explains why all that tech was kind of living harmoniously rather than, Vault-Tec saying, no, we don't want competitors in here. So pretty interesting. And I had one other thing I was going to say that I forgot. But it seems like they're setting up for another season. I mean, we it's been confirmed that they're doing a season 2. At the very end, they showed the Vegas Strip, basically, which is the primary focal point of Fallout New Vegas. It seems like timeline wise, it's meant to take place before the game. However, the condition looks like it's kind of broken down and deteriorated. Some people are saying, "Oh, is it supposed to be after or before?" So I guess we'll have to see what happens in season 2. Personally, I could see them kind of retooling Las Vegas to be a bit more run down than it wasn't. It was run down in the game, but to be even more run down just as a plot point. As Las Vegas wasn't spared, so. Technology being what it is, we can get a better representation in a movie like this than we can in a game from however many years ago. So, I would say if you are a fan of the games, if you played them or are interested in them, you should check it out. The whole thing is riddled with Easter eggs. I remembered exactly what I was thinking of a few seconds ago. Down to there's a hacking mini game when you're trying to get into a computer, where you have to you choose a word and it tells you how many letters are correct, almost like Wordle, basically, where you're trying to guess that. And there's a scene where her brother was trying to hack into a computer and he's playing that mini game. It's directly ripped right out of the game. So they really took the time to add those Easter eggs and add that 1-to-1 translation of the stuff from the games into the show. So it's definitely worth it if you've played it or watched somebody play it or have an interest.
I mean, it's on my list. It's the Amazon release strategy. It's the Netflix strategy, but it gets me so behind. The 3 shows that are on my list I've started but haven't caught up are all Amazon shows, Gen V, Upload, and this. It's just when they do it all at once, it makes it hard for me to be able, like, I like the week to week. I like to, do one at a time, like get, knowing, it doesn't feel as crazy. It's like easier to manage.
Like a structured plan.
Exactly.
Rather than like, oh, I can always go back to this.
Exactly. All right, so that's it for quick checks. We have this one little thing we're going to just do an update on real quick about last week's box office draft. So yes, last week was our summer box office draft. You can listen to that episode in our archives there. Real quick, I'll set up what the teams were and then the results of a social media poll of who social media thinks is going to win this thing. John started us off with Deadpool and Wolverine. Hear how it all began in A Quiet Place, day 1. And then Borderlands. That was 1, 6, and 7 there. Those 3 films. I had, with the number 2 pick overall, Despicable Me 4, Garfield movie at number 5, and then number 8, Twisters. And then Kyle closed things out. 3rd pick, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Number 4 pick, Inside Out 2. And then he closed out the draft with this weekend's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Great opening weekend for the film. We'll have to see if it has legs for the rest of the summer. But we also have Gemini. Google's chatbot, Gemini, got to choose everything. A little unfair, but chooses everything. Despicable Me 4, Deadpool and Wolverine, and A Quiet Place, day 1. Those are the teams right there. We asked on social media, who's going to win this thing? Who's going to have the biggest domestic totals? We have the results of that poll. Let's check it out. All right, here.
Oh my God.
Kyle, I will say this. Social media doesn't know what it's talking about. So I'm a little worried with this. Just to say it for the audio listeners here. On Instagram, I was number 1 with 44% of the vote. John, second with 33% of the vote. And then Kyle and Gemini tied with 11% of the vote. We go to Twitter. It was a 3-way tie between the 3 of us. Gemini got 0 votes. So we all got 33.3%. So,
was it just us 3 voting on Twitter?
I didn't vote at all in any of these polls for the record.
Yeah, I didn't vote either because I didn't want to
so I'm in trouble because I voted.
Yeah, I know you did. I see who votes. But anyways, I will say last year, real quick, John was the number 1. Like, everyone's like, it's John. John's going to win this thing. I think I was in last. I think nobody had faith in me. And I even have a comment here. The internet's forever, Rojas. I'm sorry. Rojo36 on Instagram. I think this might be John's one to lose. Well, he did lose it. He got 3rd last year. I got 1st. So here's the thing. Is this going to be the opposite? Is Kyle going to be number 1, then John, then me? We'll have to wait and see. But those are the results of the poll there of what's going on with the box office draft. Definitely check that out if you haven't listened to it yet. But that is it for this week. And that is it for a little bit here on the podcast. A bit of a summer vacation coming up. We will be back next month. Pencil in Monday, June 17th. That's where we're leaning towards right now with the return of both The Boys, that's season 4, and House of the Dragon, season 2. We got 2 big shows coming out when we come back on June 17th. In the meantime, though, we have a little bit of a surprise for you in your podcast feeds. It won't be on YouTube and on Twitch, just your audio podcast feeds. To celebrate the 40th anniversary of Ghostbusters, we have a Ghostbusters podcast. A little bit of a redo, remix, clip show. You'll see what we have in store for you. John and I recorded a little bit of extra content tonight for that episode. So to celebrate the 40th anniversary, you can listen to that Ghostbusters podcast. But that is all we got for tonight. Make sure you're following us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the blog doordante.com. We are live on both Twitch and on YouTube, twitch.tv/doredundancy. You can follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok at doordundancy. I got to thank both you guys for joining me tonight. John, directing the show, putting it up on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, on all the sites. For doing that extra Ghostbusters thing. And then also for both of you guys doing it at a different time, for Kyle squeezing us in with your busy schedule. So much to do, so much going on. Enjoy the vacation, enjoy the time off. Until next time, I'm David Allen.
I'm John Berwick.
And I'm Kyle Bridger.
And that's all we got for Do or Duncy. Goodbye, everybody.